man, where did we come from? Were we brought to this planet, or how did the human race end up here on this planet Earth?
Our answer to this will be very direct with you, but it is often from where you now stand out here on this far, 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 far leading edge. It's not often satisfying because it's hard to get your thoughts around all of that. But let's start by saying that matter or manifestation is advanced thought. In other words, there is thought, and then there is thought form, and then there is manifestation. And of course, there are millions of incremental steps in between all of that, but that's the general process. There is thought and then thought form, which you would call illusion or even dream state. And then there is manifestation. And all manifestation is energy that is being translated from many perceivers at the same time who concur about what they are perceiving. Did you get that? So, for example, as you look at Esther's body with the inhabitant of Abraham pouring through, you might see energy around her that some might not see. Are you getting any picture of this energy around? Now, everyone who walks in the room does not see that. And so you are seeing or utilizing your eyes to interpret vibration a little differently than the majority. And so we would say that this energy that some of you are perceiving would be more like thought form because everyone doesn't see it. But if enough were to see it, that almost all would agree that they are seeing it, then there would be a sort of manifestation. It would be sort of like a friendly Casper, the friendly ghost. It could actually be a form that would appear to be as solid as this. Right now, it's just light energy. So there is thought, and there is thought form, and then there is manifestation. Manifestation is always in the eye of the beholder. So this time-space reality that everyone is perceiving is nothing more than vibrational interpretation. So the thought form of that which is man was set forth from broader perspective and has continued to evolve by the experience of those who were having the experience here on the planet. And what you actually see as man or human is vibrational interpretation. Now, did man come from ape? No, man was a different idea. So, how does the idea of evolution occur? And we say, because the idea of each species was set forth, and as the experience of the species is lived, the idea expands. So the expansion is happening from the leading edge place and is supported from the source energy that flows everywhere the idea goes.
So our source energy at one time may have been in a dinosaur, and it changed. Our energy that we are today may have taken different forms at different times, and then we...
Well, it is sort of like that, but that is not specifically what we are saying. The source energy that was in the dinosaur was intended to be exactly what it was. And while the same source energy flows to the dinosaur and flows to your dog and flows to you, there is different intention with different energy that has flowed. In other words, the energy that is the embodiment of physical man is specific energy unto physical man. In other words, it is the intent of the energy that makes the difference, you see. And so Jerry wrote a title for one of the cassettes years ago, which really expressed what we're trying to say to you here in as clever and well of words as anything that we've ever seen coined, when he said, a snake is not a disabled lizard. In other words, and an ape is not an inferior man. In other words, the balance of the species is all intended for the balance of the whole. And source energy is joyously experiencing all of that. And all of it is here for the expansion of creation, but creation is happening in the mind of the dog just like it's happening in the mind of the man. So to get back to your initial question, which we think is a very good one, we have to say, your question is, how did human get here? And we say, human got here the same way dirt got here, the same way the earth itself got here, the same way the dog got here, the same way that everything that is physical got here. It was a thought that was pondered long enough that became form, and then pondered long enough that it became manifestation. And the only reason that it is manifestation is because other perceivers of it are perceiving it as manifestation. The real question here is, what's real? How real is this? Well, from your framework, it's pretty darn real. You can hear how real it is. Hear how real it is. This thing is real. But it is only real, we are pounding on the podium for those listening in later. It is only real because your ears interpret the vibration into sound, and your eyes interpret it into... In other words, it is only real because your interpreters interpret it as real. It's the best we can do with that one.
Okay. So the moment forward, so you really can't go into the future except we're living the future, if you could say that, I guess, in the sense that this moment now is the future.
You cannot go into the future because all of your power is in the now. All of your power to perceive is here and now. Now you can imagine the future, or you could remember the past, or you could peruse the present, but you're doing it all in the powerful now, which is where all of our experience is. In other words, even what is non-physical is experiencing the powerful now. 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 And the thing that is so delicious, and we want so much for our human friends to feel this fully, is that there will always be now because we never cease to be. So we don't have to worry about past, present, or future because we will always be in the now and we will never cease to be. That is so good. That is so good. We will never cease to be. Your questions speak to the confusion that confounds man. In other words, as I stand as a man in my physical experience, man meaning human, man, woman matters not. As I stand in my now, I am the culmination of all that I have become, and I never cease to be. I can think about past, but I'm doing it now. I can think about now, but I'm doing it now. I can think about future, but I'm doing it now. And the better I feel, the more of me is doing it now. As man contemplates death, he distorts his sense of who he is because death sounds like being finished, and your consciousness will never be finished. You are going to be so delighted when you die to discover that there's not any lapse in self-awareness. There's not a ceasing to be, not for an instant. In fact, in the death experience, there is immediate clarity, immediate dropping away of all veils and confusion, and an immediate clarity about who I be, and a powerful eagerness of who I be, and what now do I experience in my powerful now. And so the very time-space reality that you've been trying to help you define distorts in part the true nature of who all of us are, because you have these very clear, what you see as beginnings and endings. That baby is born and it seems to begin, and that old person dies and seems to end, and we say, that is such a spattering in the continuum. And the baby didn't begin when it was born, and the old man didn't end when he died. In other words, there is no beginning and ending. There is only an eternal forever and ever and ever and ever now, you see. And when you start to get the sense of now, then you don't dread endings, and you don't worry about ceasing to be. Instead, you just enjoy and devour with as much pleasure and focus as possible your now.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to interact.
Yes.
It's truly a unique opportunity, and I really appreciate it.
It is not so unique in the sense that when you ask, it is always given. But it is unique in the sense that you are expecting immediate result from this interaction. Source always answers you. It's just sometimes it doesn't happen in the moment of your asking, but that's only ever because you're not expecting the answer to come, where in this case you're expecting it maybe a little more. You trust Esther's process of being able to deliver the clarity more than you trust your own process of being able to deliver the clarity.
Yes.
But there is really no difference. You have the same access.
Well, that actually ties into my first question. In that all my adult life I've been searching and seeking for a stronger connection to my soul, and I've done a lot of study and research and spent a lot of time in spiritual practice. And I'm looking for something that's more mentally, that I can say, yes, I've received guidance, as opposed to just saying, well, that feels good. I guess I'm...
Watch for thoughts that occur to you just as someone else speaks it. Earlier today, when Esther went to get off the stage, she had released and had allowed her consciousness to return and dominate. Watch for evidence. She began walking toward the stage. And as she came to the stage, she had the impulse to stop and look at the step. And she had just walked up the step, so she was aware that the step was solid. Jerry had mentioned to her earlier that the step is a shorter step than usual, and he wanted her to be aware that she was going to be stepping down further than she expected, or up further than she expected. But as she came to the edge of the step, her impulse was to stop. And it didn't really make sense to her. She didn't know why, and she looked at the step. But then as she started to move, she felt her wire was stuck in the crack. She was unaware of it, consciously, and yet we were aware of it. And so her impulse to stop was to keep her from pulling the microphone loose in an awkward way, or even tripping as she went down. And as she stopped, not knowing why, but doing it just the same, and felt that tug, she turned around and smiled and jerked it loose and said thank you as she stepped down the steps. A simple, not very important thing. Maybe nothing would have happened at all. But it is her way of acknowledging that she is guided from broader perspective. And those kinds of things happen to you all day, every day. And the more you stop and acknowledge them, then the more you remind yourself, I am receiving and I am consciously aware of that which I am receiving. The guidance that comes forth from within is not guiding you away from problems. It's always guiding you toward the well-being that is natural to you. And so, as you acknowledge that your life experience is always in the now, and that guidance is always present in the now, then you begin to notice more and more and more that you are not alone ever, that there is a full functioning consciousness, God force, the energy that creates worlds flowing through you. And the impact of that, as it is focused into the specifics of your now, could not be better, could not be more meaningful. In other words, we don't think that there is any guidance much more meaningful to Esther than something as simple as that. She will be driving and will have an impulse to slow. Doesn't really know why. Jerry will look up from whatever he's doing and saying, why are you slowing? And Esther will say, just felt like it. And as she will come up over the crest, there is someone on a bicycle well into the road that she could not have seen, but that we have seen. So sometimes we think what you are asking for is you would like a full description. Instead of just having the impulse to slow, you would like to be told, Esther, we're telling you to slow because there's a bicycle not knowing what he is doing out in the lane, not aware that you are barreling up over the mountain at 85 miles an hour with 100,000 pounds of weight. There is not time for you to interpret all of the nuances of the knowledge. In other words, it would make you crazy. You really don't want it. You are so much happier being guided in the flow. And so you receive hundreds of thousands of impulses in every day that lead you and guide you toward the well-being that is natural. You're zigging and zagging with well-being while there are things of not well-being that are potentially around that you don't have vibrational access to. Really, you do not want constant, steady, chattering kind of guidance about all of that. The impulse is a much more sophisticated way to go. Really, it is.